Welcome to Highly Sensitive, Happily Married, the podcast that teaches you to not only have an easier marriage as a sensitive woman, but to have one that feels more amazing by the day. Where you'll hear relatable stories, love advice that works, and coaching on how to have a marriage where feeling upset and disconnected is a thing of the past, and where instead a sense of loving connection and even fun and lightness is the norm. I'm Hannah Brooks, highly sensitive person, love expert, and marriage coach, and I'm so happy to be on this journey with you. Hello, my friend. I hope this finds you well today. I am doing pretty well, although maybe you can hear in my voice. I am on day 12 of COVID. I am mostly totally fine, but like this lingering unpleasantness in my nose and throat and lungs a little bit. But my energy's pretty good and feeling good overall. I also wonder if you can hear the rain in the background. It's like pouring, cats and dogs, as they say, out there, like drenching. So lots of interesting new sounds here on the podcast today. I am loving that there's water. After being out west, like coming back here to see all this lushness and water and green is wonderful. So I'm so grateful for the water. But I also love it when the sun shines too. All the good, the 50-50, the dark, the light, the rain, the sun. Anyway, maybe this is my COVID brain kind of rambling on. Let's get to the point. Today, I have a practical logistical thing for you. And I'm playfully calling this episode Dry Toast Remediation Part 1. And hopefully you'll understand why in just a moment. So deepening connection, which is one of the goals so many of us have for our marriages. And of course, also like having a relationship that's really full of joy and joyful togetherness. That not only entails building in more of the things that create that experience, right, within the marriage, within our marriages, but it also means eliminating what doesn't build that, right? What actually diminishes it. Yeah. And I mean, this could be like, this is a grand statement about having great marriages. And can be applied in so many ways. But what I'm talking about today, what I want to focus on around that today is that for many of us, this really means diminishing the things that lead to what feels like a kind of roommate or business partner kind of feel between you and your significant other. Or what I oftentimes call this dry toast aspects of the relationship. So dry toast, I may have even told this story once before on the podcast, but in my first marriage, I was talking to a friend who she wasn't like a really super close friend, but she had been around us a fair amount, kind of in our community. And she told me one day that she thought our marriage was a dry toast marriage. And what she meant by that was that it felt just kind of dry, like the juiciness wasn't there. And I mean, that was her observation from the outside, and some of it might have been true. I mean, definitely some of it was true. And actually what I'm going to offer you today could have been a piece of what shifted that for us had we understood this. So I want to offer you this strategy today that itself, like the strategy itself actually might seem kind of dry. And it might even keep some of you from doing it, but that would be a mistake. Like dryness doesn't equal juiciness, right? Well, in this case, it really will go a long ways to remedying the dry toastness in your relationship, right? If you implement it. And you'll see, I'm going to explain more why in a minute. But this, what I'm going to call the task talk is what I'm going to share with you today. And it's really a nice complement to the heart check-in that I shared in episode 71 about connecting your way. But this actually might be, I know for some of you, your partner won't be into the heart check-in. Like I've had plenty of clients say like, nope, that's not something he's doing. And they've even asked him and he's like, nope, that's not something I'm doing. Right. So this he might totally be fine with because it isn't like the touchy-feely stuff, but it allows for more of that between you kind of naturally. So again, the task talk might not seem like a very kind of intimacy building activity, but it really is. Because a relationship can become all about those daily to-dos, right? The to-do list, all the details of living, like, right? All the things you need to navigate and agree on and schedule and all of that in your lives together. And so this, my cat, more noises to add to the interesting noise background of today's podcast. She is so funny. She loves my office and she's like attacking some papers that I have in a pile. I'm like, wow, this is so fun. So rain, weird voiced Hannah, crinkly cat, paper noises in the background. Let's just roll with it, okay? So this activity that I want to offer you today, it really helps keep all the chaos of those daily details contained into a set time, or it at least limits them so that your relationship isn't all about all of those things all the time, right? Because without this, as you might be experiencing in your own marriage, as is so common in so many relationships, particularly when we get like kids into the mixture and like maybe there's aging parents and jobs and, you don't know, pets, right? Like all the things that we've said yes to in our lives together, there can be a lot of tending to that and like things that we need to do around that and things that we need to discuss around that, right? So in other words, our relationships, our marriages can devolve into being and feeling like dry business partnerships, right? Like just checking off things off the to-do list, right? Again, like these complications of day-to-day living, I mean, we could call it complications, but like with home ownership or, you know, again, children, careers, that all of those things can feel like they're completely invading our love lives. Or like when we step back and we look at it from a sort of big picture, big perspective, we can see like, wow, our lives have become about all the tasks, right? All the things on the to-do list, getting everything done, managing all these parts of our lives together, right? I mean, like, have you ever actually had like a date with your partner where you actually just end up talking about how you're going to pay the bills or how you're going to like manage summer schedule, right? Or have you, like, even more extreme, have you ever, like, as you were like making love, have you ever had some random detail about your schedule or to-do list like pop into your head, right? Like that's the kind of thing that I'm talking about. Like clearly that's not a recipe for feeling excited about each other and feeling like really connected and like with each other's essence and like all that juicy, yummy, good stuff that you really probably had in the early days, right? Because there wasn't all these to-dos around the edges as much, or you left them in the background when you came together. Let me say that differently. Like you just didn't carry them with you when you like went on those dates in the early days, right? They like, you compartmentalized. They went over there. So the task talk puts like all the to-dos and all that stuff, the scheduling, all that under one roof, which really can leave the rest of the week's interactions to be much more rich and fun. And so there's like room again for other aspects of your relationship to come kind of back online, right? Or another way I want to make sure I say this is that it provides room for you to cultivate those more juicy, connecting, loving, present, intimacy building, and creating activities or ways of being with each other, right? And cultivating is what's really effective. It's a really effective way to bring them back in between you, right? With purpose instead of just waiting for them to happen. Although I do think that when we use the task talks in our weekly lives, there's just more space for intimacy to sort of naturally bubble up between you two, because you're not constantly talking about the dry, boring, dry toast things. All right. So last thing before I dive in, it's definitely a must do with quotes. Like, if you aren't talking about anything with your partner other than the to-dos, all the have-tos, right? Like, if you're really being invaded by the business partner aspect of your relationship, this is going to be marriage saving, just this activity alone. And I want to add, like, I have been here where the to-dos start invading. So you're not alone. And it's so common in our modern world where there really are so many. We're choosing to do so many things and have so many responsibilities. And maybe some of those are necessary, right? It's certainly like the way so many of us live. But, for me, like with having 3 kids and times when there's big projects in the works with me and my husband and I are potentially somewhat ambitious around certain things in our lives. Like when we built this house, or when it's like spring, like now, and we can tend to get ambitious about big outdoor garden projects, or like last summer it was like building a deck or finishing our deck. Right now it's like there's also like the additional things about planning kids' summer camps and summer activities and our vacations, right? So there can be a lot of extra around the edges, and it can be easy to let that be all we ever interact about for like weeks at a time, right? And so my husband and I have been off and on really good at implementing task talks, and other times we've been less so. And when we've been good at using them regularly, it's made such a big difference in freeing our time and energy to be focused on being with each other in a more romantic and connecting way at other times of the week. So hear me on this. Even if you aren't religious about doing this every single week or multiple times a week, it's still going to help. Every little bit of this will really help free up time and energy for you to be together in the ways you most want to. And the more regular you are with it, the more it will free you up. But again, you never have to be perfect at this or any of the things that I'm saying for it to make things so much, for you to benefit, for your marriage to benefit from it immensely. All right, with no further ado, let's talk about the task, not toast talk. Okay, that's my jokey name for it. The task, not toast talk. You can just call it the task talk. So here's how you do it. You're gonna set aside 10 to 20 minutes once a week on your calendars, right? You and your hubby, your partner, are going to decide together when you can both carve out 10 to 20 minutes. My husband and I like to do it in the evening, oftentimes on a Sunday. If you have young children in your lives, I actually recommend setting aside 2 15-minute stuff talks a week. Kids, those of you who have them, lots more details can be needed to be decided upon and scheduled when you have little kids. All right. So that's like the pre-step, like the preparatory step, right? Deciding how many and when you're going to do this together. Now, for that, when it actually comes time, here are the steps for the task talk. Step 1. Actually, this is a little funny, but like you can do it right before, or you can kind of do this throughout the week leading up to the day, which is making a list of the things that you want to attend to or need to get attended to, right? Paying the bills, buying paint at the hardware store, scheduling time to actually scheduling time to paint the walls, painting them, right? I'm making up a list, right? Contacting the babysitter, picking up the dry cleaning, like scheduling your upcoming vacation, talking about the car rental, whatever, right? Whatever the things are, write them down, and your partner can also be doing that, right? The things that comes up for him. And again, you could just do this before the talk itself, or you could keep it a running list throughout the week. Totally up to your preference. Okay. Step 2, when it's task talk time, sit down together, obviously. And I always recommend, like, make this an opportunity to also be present with each other and with yourself. Like, this can be a nice time together, even though it's a practical activity. It can really still be a chance for enjoying each other. So one way you might do that is take a few breaths, get comfortable, like really let yourself settle. And you might even hold hands, right? Or touch thighs, or just like snuggle close to each other as you take the rest of the steps in the task talk. Step 3, just take turns sharing from your lists. So then as you do that, each of you will choose to take action on some of the tasks. And you'll actually put them on your calendar, right? So if it's like buying paint at the paint store, one of you will be like, I'll take that one. And then you put it in on Thursday when you have time to run to the store, right? You don't, this isn't about enacting it right away, obviously. It's just scheduling it. So you'll go through your tasks and do that for all of them. And if there's like a bigger discussion to be had, like, for example, my husband and I, one of our recent tasks talks was, one of our items that we put on our calendar was to decide on our vacation and reserve the Airbnb, right? So we put that for, like, I don't remember the details now, but it was like Thursday night. We'll talk about our vacation, we'll plan it out, and we'll schedule the Airbnb or reserve it, right? So we can plan bigger discussions in this task talk. Like if it's like we need to talk about summer camps, you can plan that too. Yeah? And put it on the calendar. Now, sometimes you might find on those lists of yours that there are too many items to, discuss and put in your week, right? Like the list can be endless, right, in our lives. So what you want to do in that case is just prioritize. What are the most important ones? What are the top 5 or 10 things that we can do, right? And I think the reality of so many of our tasks in our lives is that many things aren't as urgent as our mind, our lizard brain, wants to make them, right? And so, use your discernment and look at what really matters for the week. And of course, the sub-step to this step is make sure you actually do the tasks that you committed to and put on your calendar during the week ahead. And of course, if you don't get to them, maybe it wasn't an urgent one and you can put it on the next week's to get to it. But do your best to make sure you do them. Okay. The 4th step is really just to notice how once you're in the rhythm of doing this and you're actually following through on the talks themselves and then the actions that you've scheduled and you're completing those tasks, that you're not needing to spend lots of time and energy talking about all this stuff during the week. You're not needing to spend a lot of mental energy, even in your own brain, consumed in all the things you have to do because you have it already written down. Right? You have it on the calendar and you just do them. And it frees up, energy and time and just internal resources for you and your honey to have connecting interactions, right? That are not business, quote unquote, oriented, right? That don't lead to more dry toastness, that lead to more juiciness. Yeah. And I do want to say, you will need to do this for a little while to really feel the full effect. So the last piece and the last words of wisdom for Hannah on this are have patience and persistence around it. Stick with it for a while. Now, to be fully honest here, I can't say I absolutely love the process of actually doing the task talk each week. But I do love what it leaves me and my husband with for the rest of the week, which is so much more of us to offer and enjoy the other for all that they are. Enjoy other types of conversations and be together in the ways that we both really cherish. and, building in even more and more of the love and connection and intimacy and romance and all that good stuff. So I can't wait for you to implement this game-changing strategy into your week with your honey. And if you're like, oh, that sounds good, but I really want to cultivate the good juiciness, how do I do more of that? Well, this podcast, all the episodes help you with that. And if you want more daily reminders or more regular reminders, 100% you want to be on my email list. You'll get really regular insights and drops of wisdom into how to bring more of all the good stuff into your marriage, and more of how to remove different types of barriers inside of you, inside of the relationship, to having the loving, connected, intimate marriage that you were born for as an HSP. To hop on that email list, you can head to the show notes and get the direct link, or go to www.lifeisworthloving.com/email. Or if you've not grabbed my 7 most powerful phrases to deepen connection, just that in and of itself is going to give you so much good stuff. That's a free guide, a little ebook, and little e-course that I've created just for you, my highly sensitive friend. And you can find that also in the show notes and at www.lifeisworthloving.com. If you just go to there, you'll see all sorts of places where you can put your name in and grab that free 7 most powerful phrases to deepen connection. All right, my friend, enjoy the task talk and what it brings into your life and marriage, and be oh so well.